Hello everybody, my name is Aceface. I wanted to just discuss with you guys some thoughts I've been having on some certain tanking modules in EVE Online. Namely the ones that are relating to the armor and shield compensation skills, because I wanted to just convey my thoughts on those skills and describe what they do, because initially when I started out playing EVE Online I saw these different skills, and there's different tanking skills, ones that increase your armor repair rate, your shield boost rate, your shield resists, and then I see the shield compensation skills as well, and the armor compensation skills. I'm wondering, are they worth it? Are they not worth it? That's something I would want to answer from a PvE point of view standpoint. Are the armor or shield compensation skills worth it? So as you can see here, when it comes to my armor skills, you can see EM armor compensation, explosive armor compensation, I've got pretty high levels right here, and that is because I think they are worth it a lot more in the armor portion than it is in the shield portion, because you've got the shield compensation skills here. I've not bothered training them, and there's a particular reason why, and that's why I wanted to talk to you guys, because I was just thinking about it, and they're very similar skills, but I have a lot more usage of the other one. So when it comes to PvE, at least, I want to have as much tank as possible usually, and I want to often have ships that are able to tank like independently of each other, so I'm not usually relying too much on remote reps. And when I do abyss stuff and I do mission stuff, in missions there's not so much neuting. So first let's just discuss a little bit what these skills actually do. Well, the thing is, with the shield compensation skills, they give you boosts to resistances of modules that require this skill, or like they give you boosts to resistances of modules that are like shield amplifiers. And what is meant by that is not these like multi-spectrum shield hardeners, because I often use this ship this module right here, multi-spectrum shield hardener. This module right here, I often use this, but this is not affected by the shield compensation skill. What the shield compensation skill gives you a bonus to are the shield amplifiers. And so you can see here we've got some shield amplifiers. The resistance amplifier. It's not the shield boost amplifier. I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about the resistance amplifiers. You can see here. You can actually find them if we look in the categories over here. Shield. And then we're seeing shield resistance amplifiers. You can see here we've got different types. So these right here are affected by the skills right here. So for example, if I were to train this EM shield compensation skill to high level, all these modules here would give me bigger buffs to my EM resistance, because what these modules do is they buff a certain resistance type, in this case EM, because it's EM1. If I were to go in, for example, the kinetic one, it's going to boost my kinetic resistance. So these skills, they all affect these. They make these more effective, you could say. So if we were to just take a ship, for example, we go, for example, on a Gila that is using shields. So we've got this right here. It's 52% kinetic resist. Put this on, 69%. You know, you get a bigger buff right there. The thing is, these modules, they don't require any cap. That's what's special about them, because you've got the shield hardeners. They require cap, or like capacitor, but they give more shield. So you've got the shield resistance amplifiers. Then you've got the shield hardeners over here. You can see this. So we were kinetic amp. Now we've got a kinetic shield hardener. So if we go with the equivalent, so this is level tech 1 right here. So we'll go with the kinetic shield hardener tech 1. You see, we have 69%. If we go with the hardener right here, we get 74%. So it's a stronger module than the amplifier. The main difference is that these hardeners, they require capacitor, because if I turn this off, we'll use 2 gigajoules. So that is sort of the trade-off. You need capacitor, you go for the amplifier. If you don't have as big of like a stress on your capacitor, go with the hardener, because the hardeners are a lot stronger. So generally speaking, I don't have so much need for the amplifiers. The reason is because me personally, in my style of gameplay, this differs from person to person. People have different styles of gameplay in EVE Online. But for me, in my style of gameplay, I never really have any usage of going for the amplifiers, because these give so much more tank that usually that tiny little gigajoule to spare is usually almost always worth it for me. So that's why I'll almost always go with the hardeners. I won't go with the amplifiers. For example, when I do abyss stuff, usually I'm running a Gila with a lot of natural capacitor. So if my ship is using like 2 gigajoules extra capacitor, I usually go for that, because I need as much cap as possible when I'm doing my abyss runs. The same goes for missioning as well. because in emissioning you don't really have any newts at all, so really there's very little stress on capacitor there. So really I just go for what gives me most tank. So that's why I don't use particularly a lot these amplifiers. They can be good in certain fits if you're like very strained on a capacitor and you're very borderline cap stable. It could be good in that regard. But generally speaking, I like using the hardeners because they're so much stronger. And for that reason, I don't usually train the compensation skills with shields because I don't have much use for them. I don't need to train them. Because these hardeners, they're not affected by these compensation skills over here. Just the amplifiers. So that's the reason I don't train the shield compensation skills. But let's go on the armor side of this, because there's a particular reason which I train these armor compensation skills. And the reason is because in the armor compensation skills, it is very similar. It's very, very similar. But at the same time, it is a bit different in the way the modules are laid out. So we've got very similar system to how the shields work, is that we've got the armor with armor hardeners. These are like the ones that use capacitor. So if we go for a different ship that is armor, let's say the Apocalypse. You see our EM resist 50%, put an armor hardener 74%. This is like a stronger variant because we've got the resistance coating. A resistance coating is like the same thing as a shield amplifier. This is a module that is the same way as amplifiers, that they're affected by the the armor compensation skills. So these are going to be buffed. When we have more armor compensation skills, this is going to buff. But you can see they're worse. They've got 64% EM resist, while if we were to have the hardener, we get 74%. But it's the same system, you know, same way, same system. Hardeners better than the non-cap version, but you are sacrificing a bit of capacity to your 1 gigajoule by using this armor hardener here. But the cap version or the hardener version is usually better, or it always is better. And then there's also that the compensation skills, they affect these non-cap versions, while the compensation skills don't affect the cap version. Because you can see here, if we look at the skill, you can see for armor coatings and energized platings. So you see here, coating, this is a type of coating. And the same goes for energized platings. Where are they now? Energized resistance platings. And these are a little bit better than the coatings. The thing is, the difference between this and the coating is that these use a lot more CPU, but they are stronger. You can see here, if we turn this off and just turn it off, so 70% from the energized membrane, but then for the coating only 64%. But this uses a lot more CPU. So the energized membrane, which is also affected by the compensation skills, are going to get buffed by this skill right here. So it's a little bit different that you've got some extra modules that are affected by the skills as well. But it's the same principle. The active one is not affected. The modules that don't use cap are affected by the skills. Then why do I even train these skills? Well, the reason is because in my style of gameplay, often I'll have a limited slot layout. And for me, modules that are very useful are, for example, these multispectrum coatings. So if we see here, armor resistance coating, multispectrum coating. This is the type of coating that gives all resistance types. It's a very strong coating. It is buffed by this skill, these compensation skills right here. This is a very useful module because it only takes one slot, but it gives a lot of resistance bonuses and doesn't use any capacitor. That is why the difference is in shields, in shield-based tanks, you don't have any of these kind of multispectrum coatings, or like, you don't have any multispectrum amplifiers. If we go here, like, you could say the coating is like a shield amplifier. So if we go back to the shields, see we've got like the resistance amplifiers. We don't have any multispectrum ones over here. In shields, the only multispectrum ones are these active ones, these hardeners, because these are hardeners, and they are not affected by the skills. What I'm trying to say is, generally speaking, I have a lot of usage of the multispectrum ones because they give me a lot of resist types across the board, because they allow you to get a lot of resist for a limited amount of slots. In the armor style, we can get that, and it's affected by the compensation skills. In shields, it's not. And that's why it's quite useful for me, because we're also not only the multispectrum coating, but also there's a multispectrum energized membrane. So if we go in hull and armor, and then we go in energized resistance membrane, we've got multispectrum energized membrane as well. This is a very good module, very, very powerful module. In fact, it's one of the most it's the most powerful resistance module you can get for armor-based ships. This is also affected by these compensation skills, because the multi-spectrum, you could say the strongest type of resist module for shields. We go into shields. This the one that gives you like total most resist is like these multi-spectrum shield hardeners right here. If you go in dead space, crazy resist is what you get right here. The equivalent, you see multi-spectrum hardeners, the equivalent are these multi-spectrum energized membranes. It's a bit confusing, but the equivalent of this, if you want, say I want to get as much resistances as possible in my shield, I'll go with a very powerful multi-spectrum shield hardener. But if I want to get as much resistances as possible in my armor, I'll go for these multi-spectrum energized membranes, or a very powerful one of these, like a dead space one, because they don't have any kind of active multi-spectrum membrane. They're all passive. The multi-spectrums are all passive. And I have a lot of use for the multi-spectrum, so that's why I train these skills. These skills are very important for that. Because you can see here, for example, in the multi-spectrum membrane, here we can go in dead space and go like a really crazy Corpum A-type. This is the equivalent of like the multi-spectrum, or Pithum A-type multi-spectrum shield hardener. So it just all has to do with the useful modules, the multi-spectrums. They are affected by the armor coating or armor compensation skills, while the multi-spectrum shield hardeners, they're not affected by the shield compensation skills. So that's sort of why I use it. And obviously there are usages for these like armor hardeners, the ones that aren't these like armor hardeners over here, the active ones. I do use them as well. But what I'm trying to say is I have more usage out of these armor compensation skills because they benefit very useful essential modules, which are the multi-spectrum ones, because they're often very useful just because of them only taking one slot and giving you so many all-round resists. So that's why I train armor compensation skills and not so much shield compensation skills. But it's all based around my style of gameplay. I can imagine if there's different styles of gameplay you do, it could be worth to train the shield compensation skills as well. I'm just saying what I thought, because it's just a bit of a thought process that went into me when I decided what skill to train. I wanted to just share that with you guys as well. So thanks for watching. That's me explaining why I train armor compensation skills and not shield compensation skills as much. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something new. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys later.